Blog Talk Radio.
Episode of the Retro Renaissance podcast. I'm your host, as always, Chris Heaney, with my co-host and brother in retro arms, Brahelia. Tom, how have you been, sir?
Pretty damn good.
Good. Sorry, excuse me. There we go, right. Apologies, there was no show last week. I had the dubious pleasure of turning 30 on the Sunday, so we decided not to do it, or I decided not to do it.
Selfish bastard.
I am absolutely selfish. With us tonight, we have two guests. Now, there's been a little bit of talk about them. They're like the Game Chasers, but from the Valley Spoil. We've got Aydan Watkins and Mark Edwards. Aydan, tell us a little bit about yourself and your channel.
Yep. Hey, guys. My name's Aydan, as he's already introduced. Basically, me and Mark met through Chris and Carl's Two Fat Bastards live stream. And I basically decided that I wanted to sort of get into the whole YouTube community regarding gaming and all that kind of thing. And funny enough, I met Mark through that as well. He said he was from Leaf 2, and then we got talking, which is quite cool to think, small world. And ever since then, he asked me if I fancied going to a boot sale to just look for some games and stuff. And I just thought, well, why not record it and document it and put it on YouTube? And since then, it seems to have been quite popular. So there we go.
Nice. Excellent stuff. And Mark, a little bit about yourself, please. I know we've been chatting for, since I started, really, about a year now, on and off.
Yeah, well, I started in the sort of gaming YouTube community back in 2011. So probably that's quite a long, lengthy time. So I'm an old timer now, so to speak. But so I started basically documenting my sort of Game Gear collection. Because my name on YouTube is Handheldretro.
So how many games have you got in your collection?
I've got currently 101 boxed and complete PAL games.
Blimey.
Which is quite a lot. But there's some rare ones in there, but none of the uber rare games. Like there's a game Power Drive. Have you heard of that one on the Game Gear? It's like £2,500. That is. If you can find that box, it's $2,500. But
and if I do find a box, you'll pay me $2,500 for it, obviously.
No. So basically, I've sort of come to a point now where I perhaps don't want. There's 196 games to get for a full PAL set. I've come to a point where I've probably run the course of buying the games out of being obsessed. I've started on a sort of different track now. So like I said, I've met with Aydan. We've started doing these.
Mega Drive now?
Yeah, doing Mega Drive now. It's a console I've had when I was younger, and I've always wanted to get back into it. But Aydan told me about the good old RGB cables. So I did because. So it's working really well now on the big TV in the front room.
Have you got it 5060 modded?
No, I have not. It's just standard PAL at the moment. But
the shop that you went to did that, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
What's the name of that shop?
Next Level Games in Pontypridd.
Excellent.
Yeah.
They do all the modifications and stuff there. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Right. So, Tom, what have you picked up in the last couple of weeks, mate? What have you been playing?
What have I been playing? Actually, I've been playing nothing but Dragon Quest 3 for Game Boy Color. It's been a damn good game. Other than that, Finally got around to finishing Grand Theft Auto 5.
I still haven't done it. Still.
Really?
Yeah, still not done it yet. The PS3's on the main telly, and it's always
Yeah, always taken.
Always taken. So yeah, don't get much chance to play on it really, which is strange considering I've got about 15 games on the PS3. But I figure when we get PS4, it'll go upstairs in the bedroom, and I can play happily in there. And Aydan, we've seen that you're collecting for the Master System. You picked up a few little buttes this week, didn't you?
Yeah. It's kind of weird, really. I mean, the Sega Master System is a console with a lot of nostalgia towards, with it being like my first ever video gaming memory is playing Sonic 1 on the Master System when I was like 3 or something.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't really know why I started collecting for it. I think I mean, I love emulation. I know it's a very taboo subject among retro people, but the emulators are just shite for it, and I thought I'd love to just own the original thing. And like you said, I picked up some pretty cracking titles over the last few weeks.
Shinobi in particular, great game.
Before the Dave from Next Level gave me a free copy, as you've probably seen in the episode, I've never actually played it, so for that, fair play. And ever since that, I've been literally glued to it. I was telling Mark earlier, I'm stuck on the level 3 boss, but it's
it is a very. I did a gameplay of it actually. One of the first gameplays I did. It was one of the games I gave to Wood. The first time I met Woodland, the first thing I did was I sent him a Master System 2 with a copy of Shinobi, just a loose cart, because he's a huge fan of that, and it's the arcade port, and that's what he enjoyed. So, yeah. And Mark, what have you picked up recently, and what have you been playing?
Recently, you would have seen. Should have anyone who have watched the videos we've been posting recently. I picked up a Mega Drive. Well, I didn't pick it up. I traded in some items which I found up at the attic. So I think it was a loose Dreamcast, a GameCube and things. And I picked up a Mega Drive, and I got bundled in Micro Machines 2 Turbo Tournament, Sonic 2, and Streets of Rage. So I've literally been playing them for the last week.
Mega Games one?
No.
I'll tell you what, I've got, as well as that Premier Manager, I've got a copy I've got 2 or 3 copies of Mega Games One. You can have one of them.
Nice.
In minty fresh condition, mate. Minty fresh.
Lovely.
Yes. It's even got the hanging tab. Right. So this week we are going to be talking about. First, thanks for joining us, by the way, you two. First of all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cheers. No problem.
Always nice to have other people on. We try and get different people on at different times, etc. So, what we're going to talk about now? Well, we are going to talk this week about fighters. Fighters, I mean, beat the snot out of each other. Generally 1 versus 1, although there are certain things we have 2s and teams of 3. Perfect for beating the piss out of your mate. Of course, Street Fighter 2, the ultimate game, and we will come to that later. But we're going to start first by drifting our minds back, way before I was born, to 1976, when what is considered one of the first fighting games came out. And it's not your traditional game, it's actually by Sega, and it's called Heavyweight Champ. So it's a series of boxing video games, originally released black and white graphics, and it's what critics have identified as the first game to feature hand-to-hand fighting. It was later reissued, of course, for both as James Buster Douglas Knockout Boxing, which is one of the more expensive games on the Master System, I do believe, Aydan. So keep your eyes out for that. So it's very basic. You have two players side by side, and it's just punching at each other. You can do high and low punches and inward movement for a strike, and that's it basically. So you have to when they re-released in 1987, you went behind the boxer to a first-person view, but that kind of side-on action, low punch, high punch, inward strike, that was the first ever recorded use of it. Of course, it was in the arcades.
May I interrupt you? You know that one you're talking about? Is it the one where you punch the paddles? Because I was just looking. You're talking about the arcade game.
It's not so much you don't necessarily punch the paddles, but there are two paddles, and you hold them like you would a pair of boxing gloves, like conventional boxing gloves. Stuff like this to operate the arcade machine. Slightly after that, and perhaps more the 80s here. So it didn't really take off. But in 1984, a game called Karate Champ, or in Japan, Karate Do, The Way of the Empty Hand, was created by Data East. And it was, of course, released on the arcade again. And so you're a karate comparer, side on, fight against another player or the computer. So using two joysticks, players can execute a number of moves. So you could do and you had health bars and stuff like this. But the actual moves were quite a lot. So you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 attacking moves and 4 defensive moves. So you could do forward somersault and reverse somersault. This later led on in 1985 to Way of the Exploding Fist, which was released really the first one on home computers. So the ZX Spectrum, the Commodore 64, Amstrad CPC, the Acorn, and the BBC Micro. And you've probably all seen this. It's where you're going backwards and forwards, and you're in a dojo and you fight against people. And in fact, the sequels were Fist 2, The Legend Continues, and Exploding Fist. Exploding Fist is the one that people and others know, and it features combat with 3 characters from International Karate, or IK+, which is another one that people associate with this. And then after that, really, was the first, what people consider the first pure fighter, which is, of course, the hidden special, because it had hidden special attacks, was Street Fighter in 1987. Not to be confused with Street Fighter 2. So Street Fighter released again on computer-based systems such as the Amiga, the Commodore. Never really a console thing. Do you know of a console port, Tom?
At that time, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, wouldn't they port it to the Spectrum at some point?
I'll tell you what, let's have a look. But obviously you've played Street Fighter, the original, yeah?
Yeah. Well, what do you mean, the original Street Fighter or Fighting Street?
The original Street Fighter, so Street Fighter, the video game.
Okay, because I'm pretty sure the first official Street Fighter was maybe, was it Fighting Street? It
was Street Fighter, and then it was ported to the TurboGrafx or as Fighting Street in 1988. But it was originally released in 1987 in the arcades as Street Fighter.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah.
But you have players, Ryu's in there, Ken's in there, I think, as well. But then you have players like Retsu and Birdie and stuff like this, who you might recognise from the Street Fighter Alpha series, who are in there. So it was released on arcade, Amiga, Amstrad, Commodore 64, PC Engine, ZX Spectrum. Yes, you're quite right. It's later been released on PlayStation 2, Wii Virtual Console, Xbox, PSP, all parts like the Capcom Classics Collection.
Yeah.
It's a great little compilation to get if anybody's interested in that. But you had the hidden moves, so you had the Dragon Punch, Psycho Fire, or Hadouken, and Hurricane Kick. So these were the moves that you could kind of use. So yeah, that was really the first kind of big one. And then, of course, it was solidified in Street Fighter 2 in 1991. And this is when players first sort of came about using combos, so working out those perfect timings. Although it didn't tell you that you got a combo like modern games because it was the first one, but say you went, you knocked someone into the air and then you did a combo of punches on them. By doing that combo, they were unable to defend, and so it was considered advantageous to always try and get those in wherever possible. So, that's kind of like the early years. Tom, what are your sort of early recollections of fighters there? Up to Street Fighter 2.
Well, I've still got the box for it now from when we had an Atari as a kid. Atari 2600 Boxing. This was 1988 by Real Sports Series. And to be honest with you, it doesn't look too bad for an Atari 2600 game, but to think that kind of, like you said, Street Fighter came out like a year before, it looks so primitive in comparison. In fact, I'll read off the back of the box. This is action-packed professional boxing. Rely on your skills, and you can defeat Lefty O'Leary.
Oh.
Because you might be up against Jab and Jack, Macho Man, or Iron Fists.
Macho Man.
Macho Man. Yeah, there's a copyright issue there, surely.
It's me.
But yeah, this is 1988. But earliest memory, it'd either have to be Rocky on the Master System or a game called Body Blows on the Amiga 500.
Body Blows.
Which I think might be a Team 17 game.
Absolutely, it was. Body Blows. Just such a good game.
The graphics, man. It's now. It's very slow, though. Very slow and clunky.
Yeah, really, really, really good. Love Body Blows.
Because I'm not sure if that was like a later Amiga game, because I remember at the time they were raving about that Rise of the Robots game. Did anybody ever play that?
Yeah, I've played that.
Oh
terrible.
My God, the hype around that sack of shit.
Yeah, it was terrible.
It was a belly flop of doom, wasn't it, if ever there was one?
It really was. I remember really wanting it as a kid. I didn't get it till years later on a 3DO, I think. And my God, you can do like 3 moves or something, and that's it. It's fucking terrible.
So what about you, Aydan? What about your early sort of things with fighters? Did you ever go into the arcade and play Street Fighter 2 or anything like that?
Unfortunately, I didn't. Where I live, arcades were a big thing. My first exposures to fighter games came, obviously, in the early to mid-90s, because unlike all of you old fucks, I'm still very young, and I was born in 89.
Hey!
Tom's about what are you, Tom, 86?
87.
87, there you go.
I'm catching up.
So I can talk about like my first memories if you want to, or do you want to continue?
We'll leave that. Mark, you're old. What's your first memories of fighters?
Well, cheers. Yeah, well, I'm 30, so yeah, I'm possibly the oldest one, so that's bad. Yeah, my earliest memories were, I don't know whether you've heard of this game, it's ER Kung Fu on the Commodore 64.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was a Konami game. Is that right? I'm not sure, but
yeah,
I know it was.
Kung Fu.
Yeah, so it was sort of bound. I remember. So it must have been out in the mid '80s, but I must have played it later on in life because I would have had to been a bit older to play it, sort of thing. Yeah, it was quite it was a kung fu game, and you were like a Bruce Lee type character, and again you like 4 different bosses of each level, and you progress through, and they'd all have different sort of weapons. And I don't know whether that was, the blueprint for fighter games at the,
Yeah, there was a NES game, wasn't there, called Kung Fu?
Yeah, no, it's a bit.
Which you can kind of see the fighting style in there.
Yeah, it's a bit different Kung Fu on the NES. You'll have to have a look it up on the internet. But ER Kung Fu, you were like a Bruce Lee type character, and you progressed through the game with there was like this guy with a big long chain. And nunchucks,
that's right.
Ninja stars. That's what I remember. My sort of first memories of fighting games. So yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
nice. remember playing Street Fighter 2 in the arcade. I used to play at a place called Mega Bowl in Bedford, where my dad would take me up to the bowling alley. It was never about going bowling for me. It was about playing The Simpsons.
Yeah.
And the Simpsons arcade, and playing. I did play Street Fighter 2, and later on the Championship edition when they added in the 4 new characters and stuff. So where you could beat that was Super Street Fighter 2, wasn't it? World Warrior edition, where you could play as like Cammy, DJ,
yeah.
I'm trying to think of it, Fei Long and T-Hawk. So when those 4 were added, I remember playing that very vividly. But anyway, so after Street Fighter 2 in 1991, the floodgates opened, and at the same time SNK were really sort of honing down on their style of games with Neo Geo. So you had stuff like Art of Fighting and Samurai Showdown coming out. And then of course other franchises like Mortal Kombat, Virtua Fighter, Tekken, Soul Calibur, Marvel vs. Capcom, or Marvel vs. Tekken, or Marvel vs. SNK, whatever, Dead or Alive, and more recently probably, and I know a lot of people wouldn't necessarily think of this, and you'll make the connection as soon as I say it, Super Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
When you can, it is really, all it is a fighter, isn't it? With Nintendo characters, sorry. So, I wanted to touch on a couple of those franchises. First of all, probably the most obvious and the biggest competition to Street Fighter at the time was definitely Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat came into the world, as I'm going to say, and this is probably going to get me in some trouble here, overhyped for what it was. It based it on the gore. So that was all it was, and then every character had the same basic moveset. So you had the high kick, the low kick, the high punch, the low punch. The only thing that differed were the special moves. So with Sub-Zero, you could freeze people. With Scorpion, you could throw something, go over. And the characters, and it was made more realistic because they used movie characters, movie actors and actresses to do the moves, and then they sort of planed it onto them. And it was basically, it was made famous because of fatalities and the blood and guts involved there. And I don't think, even if it didn't have the fatalities, it probably wouldn't have been so good. So at the end of a round, if you've beaten your opponent through a series of combination of buttons, you can perform a fatality. So, for example, you pull out somebody still beating heart, or lock their head off, or change into a dragon. And no, sorry, that's bestiality in the second one. But you could do all kinds of things.
Bestiality?
Things. Yeah, bestiality, yeah.
Yeah, it was, you're right.
No, Liu Kang, in Mortal Kombat 2, I'll say this now because I'll get in trouble, but Liu Kang could do a bestiality move at the end where he turns into a dragon and eats the person.
Oh, nice.
Every person had a beast that they associated with, and he turned into that thing and then destroyed them.
To be fair, I guess it was, I mean, you can't really downplay the fact that at the time it was, I mean, quote-unquote near photorealistic characters sort of ripping each other's guts out. It was
the most realistic game on the market at the time.
It was a big deal, for sure. But the fact that like any kid can go in an arcade and just like pop a quid in and play, like.
But gameplay-wise, I don't think it was that important. You know, very basic moveset. You knew that if you were playing as M. Bison in Street Fighter and you did a jumping low punch, you knew that would hit for a lot versus, say, Chun-Li, who would do a lot of quick moves for a small amount of damage, whereas M. Bison would slowly for a lot of damage. Everybody in Mortal Kombat was the same, and that's kind of... And yeah, I had Mortal Kombat 1 and 2, and after the initial, oh yeah, look at this, I can uppercut someone down into spikes, or I can uppercut someone into acid. The novelty wore off really quickly, you know, I've got to say. To this day, I still don't find it that great. Aydan, were you a fan of Mortal Kombat?
Yeah, I wanted to say, like sorry to just sort of backpedal, when you're talking about like your first experiences with fighters, obviously being a 90s kid, this is, Mortal Kombat is where I first got my sort of exposure. Like, I understand what you're saying, compared to Street Fighter with the moveset, it is a lot more simplistic, but then my argument in some respects is that makes it more balanced in terms of gameplay, because I know, like you were saying with M-Bison, when you do the downward punch, it does a lot of damage versus, say, Chun-Li's fast attacks but less damage. All that says to me, like with some other fighting games, is that different characters work better against each other rather than anyone being able to choose two random characters and having a sort of equal playing field. I mean, obviously now, as time and years have gone on with different iterations, we've obviously been able to, narrow it down, but I don't know, maybe I just prefer the more simplicity of Mortal Kombat, but again, my first experience of it was on the Mega Drive, and one of the distinct things I remember specifically as a kid being wowed by was, like you said, the violence and the blood and the gore.
Yeah.
And I do think that like, I have to agree that in terms of like when it came to the market, other than like the really cool digitized graphics of the characters, I don't think there was much there to make it an exceptional game. I think it's just the fatalities, the gore and all that kind of thing is what sort of projected it and made it popular, because like, I mean, who didn't go to school the next day and say, oh my god, I got this game where you can rip this dude's heart out and burn this dude into a skeleton and that kind of thing. As a kid, especially,
it was a big deal for Mega Drive owners.
Yeah.
The SNES owners. I was a Mega Drive owner before I was a SNES owner, and SNES owners had to put in a code to get the cord turned on, because there was a big court case about it at the time. Nintendo didn't want to be seen as they were such a family-friendly company that they put out the game, and the core was still in there, but they made the developers make it so that it was code. You had to put in a code to get it, and of course everyone knew the code anyway. But it was just a PR stunt, if you will, on Nintendo's part.
I thought I thought that is with the Mega Drive, because I know the Mega Drive version you have to enter a code for blood, but with the Super Nintendo version they recolored the blood to grey, so look,
brown.
No, the Mega Drive
brown sweat
was full on.
Oh,
right from the beginning.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
I genuinely remember on the very, very first Mortal Kombat game on the Mega Drive, you had to enter a code during the opening scenes, and then it would turn red blood.
Do you know what? You might have a point there. I think Mega Drive maybe had the blood code. Super Nintendo didn't. It had the brown sweat.
Yeah, it had like the grey or whatever, or brown or whatever colour you said, sweat. I know the Mega Drive one was the one that you had to enter a code in, I'm sure of it.
That's why Super Nintendo got so gypped on Mortal Kombat. I think for 2 they put the blood back in. But,
yes, I was going to say, for 2 it was always there. Because I remember thinking, well, that was something for nothing. Yeah. Right, well, there you go then. And Mark, what about you with Mortal Kombat? Were you a fan? Did you play it much?
Yeah, I'd never owned the game, but I know I used to go to my friend's house and we used to play Mortal Kombat quite regular. But what I will say about the Mortal Kombat sort of franchise, I have played some bad Mortal Kombat ports. Like, I know the Master System port, I think, is terrible. So is the Game Gear port. But I know, but so far as it compared to Street Fighter, generally all of that franchise has never really been a bad game, save for Street Fighter, the movie, the game.
Which was actually based on the Mortal Kombat engine, ironically.
Yeah. Other than that, but there's have you heard of that? I know it's not really a fighter as such, but Mortal Kombat Mythologies, that Sub-Zero game.
Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah, that's sort of like they've obviously a money spinner. We'll play on our name and we'll sell on the card or whatever. And they came out with this silly side-scrolling beat 'em up / fighter, which was terrible.
I'll tell you what, we could just do a podcast about all the shitty spin-off games that have been made off the Mortal Kombat engine. So you've got Batman Forever.
Oh God.
The Mortal Kombat Mythologies. You've got, what's that shitty one on Jaguar?
Kasumi Ninja.
Yeah, Kasumi Ninja. Bam.
The Scottish dude who fires fireballs from his
Out of
crotch.
his tree.
But the Mortal Kombat films were much more watchable than the Street Fighter film, and certainly much more watchable than the Tekken film.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
But the Street Fighter, we've touched on this in a previous podcast, Tom. The Street Fighter film was shit, but there was decent anime of it.
Yes, yeah.
The animated movie, and they brought out an animated series as well, which I started watching, which isn't too bad actually, and a Street Fighter Alpha movie as well. But yeah, the Jean-Claude Van Damme and Kylie Minogue masterpiece that is Street Fighter the movie.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, it will never be watched again in this house, I can assure you.
Did you hear about, Raul Julia plays M. Bison in the movie? Did you hear the rumor about apparently the only reason he took the role was because his son was a fan of Street Fighter and he was talking to his dad, obviously Raul Julia, about it, and that's why he took the role.
It's true, but he knew that he had kind of terminal cancer or whatever, and he gave his kids some scripts and let them pick the best ones out, or the ones that they wanted him to do. And to be fair, he does look like he's kind of having fun just playing the villain, and he is the best part of the movie, hands down.
Of course! The Mortal Kombat really has been a bit of a dud to me since maybe even the third one.
Yeah.
The Mortal Kombat trilogy on PlayStation 1 is a great pickup because it has those 3 games on there. I thoroughly recommend that. But Street Fighter to me is, I'm really looking forward to the next iteration. I'm looking forward to Street Fighter 5 when that comes out on next gen.
About 30 years from now.
I don't know about that. We've just had a couple of Super Street Fighter 4s and what have you.
I know, but we need Street Fighter 4 Alpha Super Mega Awesome Championship Turbo Next Gen Awesome Edition yet.
We've just had Street Fighter versus Tekken. And I know is it Street Fighter X Tekken, sorry.
Yeah.
And I really, really enjoyed that actually, as a Street Fighter and a Tekken fan. When I was playing Tekken, I always used to play Eddie Gordo. Always. Eddie Gordo was the man for me, as far as I was concerned.
Street Fighter versus Katsumi Ninja.
I'd buy that.
Street Fighter 5 isn't in development now, but they are considering it, and they are considering making it free to play, much like the Killer Instinct Gold, where you buy the characters that you want to play and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Which I wouldn't be adverse to, actually.
One thing I wanted to mention. Have any of you played the 3DS Street Fighter?
Yes.
Yes. Actually,
what I don't like about that game is the sort of quick. They're obviously the dual screen. On the bottom screen, there's like a quick action button, so you don't actually have to do a combination of buttons to do a special move.
That's right.
So I just think that was a bit of a crappy.
A bit of a cop out. I remember watching Games Master, and they did a review of an arcade stick, which had essentially a macro function, so you could record the special move and press a button for it.
Yeah, so that defeats the point of playing a fighter game. You might as well play a button basher. I think the whole point of a fighting game is, the combinations and learning them, memorizing them.
Yeah,
The satisfaction comes from pulling off the combo.
Yeah, that's right.
Doesn't the Xbox 360 and PlayStation version also have those sort of quick buttons on like the triggers and stuff though? I thought they did too on Switch.
Maybe I've not played them versions, so.
I know at the minute that Street Fighter 3 is like the definitive edition for tournaments, which of course, after MOBA games, real-time strategies and FPSs, you'll often see at these the online gaming tournaments that fighters, particularly Street Fighter, and I think Marvel vs. Capcom's the other big one. They are quite hyped up, and there's quite a lot of stuff going on. So they're normally good to go.
I did play Dead or Alive on 3DS the other week actually, and the boobs are absolutely ridiculous. I mean, the jiggling.
Yeah, I've got that demo on my 3DS as well.
It just doesn't stop. The bit on the bridge, the jiggling just does not stop.
No. It's a bit OTT, I think.
You do realise they spend like 90% of the development time working on the physics to get that correct, right?
That's right. It's the jiggle physics. It's so important.
So
their keynote speeches must be hilarious.
Yeah, I guess Dead or Alive really fucked me off. Dead or Alive volleyball, and I was like, oh come on, this was once a great series, and you've really kind of just
now it's just butt slamming.
Yeah.
That sounded wrong, actually.
And slamming some other things as well.
Yeah.
I had
absolutely awful.
I had some great hours on that game with some of the custom soundtracks and all that. Trying to unlock the most skimpiest bikini possible by winning volleyball rounds.
Of course, probably the most recent Back to Street Fighter films, the Wreck-It Ralph had cameo appearances, quite a few, including Ryu, Ken, Chun-Li was there, Cammy, Blanca, Zangief, and Bison were all in it.
Yep.
The best part, the Zangief when they're in that sort of Bad Guys Anonymous. Exactly. Just because you're a bad guy doesn't mean you're a bad guy. I thought that was there a good Zangief impression? I think
it was pretty good.
Pretty good.
He's I always liked to play Zangief because if you did his
360 power driver, was it?
No, his spinning clothesline.
Yeah.
It would allow if you were facing against someone with a fireball attack like Ryu, Ken, or Kuma or Chun-Li, the fireball would pass through you.
No, I didn't know that. I was aware of that.
Yeah, there you go.
Did anybody ever make any like Soul Calibur fan fiction movie things?
I don't know. Soul Calibur's on my list here to talk about. Actually, Soul Calibur being
Soul Calibur's still big.
Yeah, I guess it's one of those ones like Fighting Vipers where you have the weapons.
Aye.
You know,
Fighting Vipers, man.
Fighting Vipers, big. And of course, that was released just before the turn of the century, so around 1999.
Yeah.
Dreamcast originally, I believe, just after the arcade.
You talking about is it Soul Calibur 3TB? Yeah, you can go. I've got that. You can go first person on that. It's really bizarre.
Really?
Yeah, for sure. So strange, but it's good. Good game. Kind of clunky now, but I mean.
What was the follow-up to Soul Calibur called? It's just Soul Calibur 2, presumably.
Yeah, I think so.
Soul Calibur 2 was the one where on the GameCube you could have
Link, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Zelda, or Master Chief on the Xbox, or somebody else on the PlayStation.
No, it was Spawn on the Xbox.
Spawn on the Xbox. Sorry.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're the different playable character for each console.
Yeah, the only version I've played is the GameCube version of that. Basically because you can play as Link.
Yep.
And he's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Just one thing. When we kind of jumped ahead, we kind of missed out all the mid-90s stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Like during that too. Like the revolution of 3D fighting.
Yeah, you know, I'm not a huge fan of that. I'll be honest with you. Like the you know, you can circle round and stuff like that.
You can't around stuff.
You know, it's just like, oh, double tap up. Oh, you've gone past me. I like the straight 2D. Of course, Virtua Fighter was a 3D game, but it was on a 2D plane.
Yes, right, yeah.
So although your characters were in 3D, it was the first sort of one that did it really properly 3D polygons. Your character was on a 2D plane, much like a lot of the. Although like you play the new Mario game, Mario 3D World, you're in a 3D environment, but essentially you're doing most of the work on a 2D plane because you can only do it one way on a 2D plane.
Okay, what was the first 3D fighting game you ever played that you can remember?
Virtua Fighter.
Yeah,
Virtua Fighter.
Mine was Virtua Fighter 32X. So,
Mine was Saturn, but yeah, Virtua Fighter.
Yeah, I think mine was Saturn as well. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan. In fact, I just traded in Virtua Fighter 5 the other day on the Xbox 360. So
there is a Virtua Fighter animation game on the Game Gear.
Yeah.
So I'd mention that, which isn't virtual or either. Although I'm sure there's a port of it that was released in Brazil.
Virtua Fighter seems very much the purest kind of game because the combos have to be split second perfect, don't they? You know, it's one of those where if you're going to do really well at it, you pick Virtua Fighter. You know, you can't button mash Virtua Fighter.
You can on the Game Gear version. You need to get your enemy to the end of the screen and just keep kicking them, and you win.
Aydan, what sort of titles were you talking about there? Presumably you mean like the 3D ring with the ring out stuff.
Yeah, well, basically...
Like Soul Blade and Soul Calibur stuff.
Yeah, and Tekken as well, that's another one. But, like, with Virtua Fighter, like, I get what you're saying about, you know, fair enough, you don't like it for that reason, but I think the one thing which... It wasn't just revolutionary because of its 3D graphics. Now, let's face it, that was a huge deal at the time. But I think what also made it stand out is what you also sort of mentioned, and that is about the combos are very, very... God, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, you know, like specific, like you said. But like that's a game. You know how Yu Suzuki, who created like all the great Sega classics, he's the guy that made it, and he is one of the most perfectionist. Who just want perfection in everything they do, and it shows in Virtua Fighter because every character has a distinct set of moves, and they all have their ups and downs. And I think it's just like the most balanced game I've ever played. Like in terms of fighting. Now, I've only played 1 and 2 on the Sat, and I kind of stopped after that because they sort of went downhill in my opinion. But I'm talking again from like this 90s perspective that they are like two of the most perfect games I've ever played, except for one thing, which is when you jump, it's like you're on the moon.
I was gonna say.
Yeah. Go on, Mark.
Yeah, I was just saying that it was exactly where I agree with everything you said, but the sort of physics in the game were very off. You sort of rise up very slow, but then sort of drop quite quick as well. Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah.
You know, so it was. You know, it's not so bad if the physics were sort of even, but they sort of used to speed up and slow down and things like that. But it was a good game from what I can remember.
Yeah, do you know what? And I was more of a fan of Soul Blade and Soul Calibur than I was Virtua Fighter. And I'll make no qualms about it. It's just not my kind of game, you know. I'm not that much of a perfectionist when it comes down to it. I could see myself losing far too much time in a game like that.
It is. It is difficult if you don't know the moves. It's very brutal indeed. But then again, I guess. Actually, no. I was going to say it's because you know, the Japanese culture. But then, having said that, look at Street Fighter, because I'm sure, like you guys have seen in tournaments when you see, like, you know, back in the 90s especially, when you see those Japanese dudes playing games against each other, my God.
I was lucky enough to play the Street Fighter 2 UK champion at Play Expo.
Nice.
I didn't land a single hit, but needless to say, it was a fun experience getting schooled. They did have a prize for anyone that beat him. I don't think anyone did. But there were some, and I watched quite a few rounds of Marvel vs. Capcom 3, I think it was. So the latest one. Is that right? Is it Marvel vs. Capcom 3 now? I think that's about right, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah, because if I recall, I think number 2 came out, was it like during PS2 generation, and they like Resident Evil characters and all that nonsense? If I recall.
Let's have a look. So, yeah, it is. It's Ultimate Marvel versus Capcom 3. So, or Marvel versus Capcom 3, Fate of Two Worlds. And I always have I have Deadpool, Ryu, and what's the guy's name? Captain America, sorry. No, those are my three guys that I normally play with. They're absolutely awful choices, and I'm absolutely god fucking awful at them. But I love them. I really do love them. I think it's just such a fun game to play as well. That kind of dynamic. Although I played Tekken Tag before and stuff like that, there are this sport in for me the whole new thing of doing like tag out and do these combos between characters, and that just adds a whole other dimension in there. I don't know what you guys think about that particular series.
Someone say something.
Tom, have you ever played any of the Marvel vs. Capcoms?
Way back when, and as for Tekken Tag, I've never played anything past Tekken 3.
Okay. Played any games where you tag in and out kind of thing?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't mind that dynamic. It's cool. Makes it more interesting, I guess.
Are you more about the one-on-one kind of thing?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. One of my favourite beat 'em ups actually is Samurai Showdown series. I think they only made 2, but I've got them for 3DO, and those are good games. Really, really fast. Really fast.
Marvel vs. Capcom, where like you've got Frank from Dead Rising and Firebrand from Ghosts and Goblins in there and stuff like that, and Jill from Resident Evil's in there, and
well, I mean, come on, they're using Wii Fit characters.
Yeah, but this was the next thing that I wanted to go on to actually, which is Super Smash Brothers, which kind of it's really, really enjoyable. I know I shouldn't like it, but I do. Do you know what I mean?
It's made for you.
Yeah, it's just, oh my goodness, you could lose a lot of time in that game. Super Smash Brothers, I'm sure everyone knows, but basically you take on the role of a Nintendo popular character like Mario, Zelda, Pikachu, Metroid, Samus from Metroid. In there, but I'm guessing that's a Capcom call because that's in Capcom,
that's Capcom
versus Street Fighter. Although I always associate Mega Man with Nintendo. And various others. But yeah, to me it's always fun, and I always play as either Pikachu or Link. Pikachu does a devastating attack where he can call lightning down from the sky, jump onto him, and then basically blast everyone away from him.
Yeah.
Which is perfect. And you could spam the piss out of that quite easily. So yeah, that's one of the things that I like about it. Tom, have you had much? Have you got it on the Cube?
No, but I have got the N64 one, the first one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's your
I love it. I think it's brilliant. And generally, I always played as Snake in the later ones whenever I played them around friends' houses or whatever. I'll tell you what, I've got a random question for anyone who's up on beat 'em ups.
Go on then.
Bit random, but which was the first game to have that sound effect where if you won, they went boo, boo, boo?
Oh, I'm going to go with Final Fight.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
I have
think.
no idea.
No, I'll pass.
What is it, Tom? Do you know?
No, that's what I mean. It's been driving me. I really want to know. I would have said.
I'm confident it's Final Fight. Although it's a side-scrolling beat 'em up, it's definitely the one that I remember, like the bosses and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Similarly, Streets of Rage had that same thing.
Yeah, I was going to say Streets of Rage.
But I think Final Fight was just ahead.
I'd love to know who kind of decided that noise was a good idea, because it's great when you kick your friend's ass and that's the last thing they hear. It's just their character going. Boo, boo, boo. It's like, yes.
Sounds like Solid Snake when he dies.
Snake.
There's an excellent version of speaking of Streets of Rage. There's an open source engine called Beats of Rage.
Yeah, I've seen
where
that.
you can play as the Street Fighter characters going through a beat 'em up series. That's really
Technically.
Oh, Mark's dying a death.
No, I'm still here.
Oh, I wonder who it was then. Yeah, you can do all the moves and stuff. So the hurricane kick and bits and bobs like that. It's really good fun actually. I recommend Beats of Rage to any Street Fighter fan, or indeed any beat 'em up fan. Tommy, ever tried Beats of Rage?
I haven't. No, I need to.
It's absolutely fantastic, mate. Someone made a He-Man version, which is good fun. They tend to be quite short, but the sprites are usually well done. Beats of Rage, definitely check it out.
That's awesome.
So, we're almost at the end of the show. We've got about 10 minutes left. Any thoughts on fighters? Aydan? What's your favourite fighting game, and who do you like to play as?
Okay, again, going back with nostalgia, I'm gonna have to say Mortal Kombat 1 for its simplicity and all that. But I'm talking Mega Drive, not arcade, because I hate all the stupid sound effects like wah, 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 all that shit. And anyway, my favorite character would be Scorpion, hands down.
Ah, get over here, eh?
Yep, get over here and all that. Gotta love it.
Aiden, didn't you go fancy dress somewhere as a Mortal Kombat character recently?
Yeah, I went as Sub-Zero because the Scorpion costume wasn't available.
Excellent.
So, what about you, Mark? What's your favourite sort of
Well,
your favourite fighter, and who do you like to play as?
Yeah, my favourite fighter will have to be Street Fighter 2, is it Championship Edition or Champion Edition on the Mega Drive.
Right. Thingy looming over you.
Yep.
Bison looming on the front cover.
Yeah, you're right. Basically, I had the 6-button control pad, which was quite essential for playing Street Fighter on the Mega Drive. Because I know you would have to press the start button for the buttons to switch over otherwise. But so he had a 6-button controller, which was really good. I know when you first start off, you're not sure of the moves, and you either go Honda, Blanca, or Chun-Li, because you can just push the button, and they've got these the instant attack sort of moves. But as you progress through the game and you get better, I sort of started using Ryu. I think that's probably one of the more popular characters, and you sort of get to master his moves. And I would say Ryu in Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. And Tom?
I'd say favourite beat 'em up. It's probably Samurai Showdown 2, if I'm being honest. Favourite character would be Liu Kang from Mortal Kombat, because whenever I make the bicycle kick noises at my older brother, it still makes him break out into Pavlovian nightmares. I've got a good question. What is the shittiest fighting game, or also what is a shitty fighting game that you secretly like but won't admit to? Mine is Star Wars Masters of Teräs Käsi on PlayStation.
Oh, very good. Shitty fighting game would be Turtles Tournament Fighters on the NES. I think it was the only fighter that ever came out on the NES. It's shit because you've got 2 buttons. So yeah, that's always one that but secretly, I quite like I'm trying to think of the name of it, but it's scared. It's okay as a game, but it's not all that. I like Masters of Combat on the Master System. Again, it's a 2-button jobby, very difficult to do. So yeah. Aydan, what about you? What do you? What's your worst fighter that you played, and what's a crap one that you secretly love?
Well, to be honest with you, I got to combine my answer to both of them because it fits both categories. It's the most shittiest fighter I've ever played, yet I secretly enjoy playing. So it's got to be Pit Fighter.
I was thinking that.
Pit Fighter, yeah.
I have
goodness.
Yeah, I got memories of playing it on the Master System as a kid, so I think it's just sort of nostalgia goggles. But I know it's a shit game, but it's just, for some reason, I just love picking up boxes and smashing people over the head with them, so...
Man, that game.
I always used to play as Buzz, I think his name was, or something.
Yeah, Buzz. You're right.
Yeah.
They used to get weighed in on them like forklift trucks, so it was the amount of money they used to make or something.
Did you guys ever pick up a fighting game and it was just awful? What did you think of Killer Instinct, for example, the original?
I actually kind of liked it.
Yeah, it was a bit different for his time, I think. So you had like the super duper 10 million combination hits, didn't you, with that game?
Yeah, endless combos.
Endless combinations, yeah.
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 It was better than Rise of the fucking Robots.
Yeah, any game was better than that, but yeah.
There's of course one of the things that we often forget is the combo breaker. That sort of little sound now is it's forever locked in my head.
Nah.
Did you where do you guys want fighters to go in the future as well? That's something that we have really covered.
Yeah, but I don't mind going. Basically, I like them to be kept sort of simplistic. I don't like all the gimmicks like we were talking about Dead or Alive with the jiggling and all the bazookas and things like that. I just like the simplicity of literally a one-on-one. It can look, I don't mind the graphics improving. That's just going to happen with technology. But the Street Fighter 2 did it right from the start. That was sort of the revolutionary sort of Capcom brought out that series of games. I think games for the future, other franchises need to take suit and follow. That is a sort of a perfect recipe for a fighting game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of agree with Mark. I was actually going to say as well, I just sort of want to return to simplicity for the most part. To be fair, one game that has sort of gone back to roots, which I thought was an amazing game, was the newest Mortal Kombat, if anyone's played that. Now, that's a fantastic fighting game, and I know it's got like the little gimmick with the X-ray to see the internal damage, which is awesome, but the gameplay itself is consistent, solid, and I guess... Yeah, I guess for me, I just want simplicity. Like Mark said, back like with Street Fighter 2, I played the Turbo Edition on the SNES. It's really hard to explain, but unless you've played it and then played some other crappier game, the controls and just the way it feels is spot on. And I think it's really difficult to replicate that using 3D, whereas 2D just seems to be a lot easier for some reason, if that makes sense.
I don't think, I'm much the same. I don't think anything's ever going to beat Street Fighter for me. I like all the iterations, really, but yeah, Street Fighter 2, I remember loading it in, playing countless matches against my brothers and my dad, playing as Blanca, and they would try and jump onto you. I'm going to electrocute you, bitch. Or backing them into a corner with Chun-Li and then using that, the super fast 100 kick So yeah, for me, the Street Fighter is just a classic. And yeah, maybe do you know why? Maybe the boring answer, but it's the best for a reason, and it's the one that I love.
Yeah.
They just seemed to tick all the boxes with that game, didn't they? Literally everything was just perfect and down to a T.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, Street Fighter's been in 100 different spin-offs, and it's 100 different collaborations as well, like the Tekken and the Marvel vs. Capcom and all the rest of it, and Beats of Rage, and you know, if you were talking about guys that defined gaming, one of them would without a doubt be Ryu. You know, you wouldn't put Liu Kang in there, you'd have Ryu.
Yeah.
You know, Ryu is the guy that everyone associates Street Fighter with.
Poster boy.
Yeah, absolutely, the poster boy for fighting games. Would you agree, Tom?
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
He's just he's got a great medium hitting, medium speed moveset. He's got the fireball, he's got the dragon punch, and he's got the hurricane kick. And those only get better as the iterations go on, and he does the massive Hadoukens and all the rest of it. But yeah, I don't think that there's much more that people could do with him. And he's always seen, if you read the books or you read the comics or you watch the manga or whatever, the warrior spirit that he has and stuff, and he faces against the Kuma and stuff like that. It's all spot on. It's just what you would expect of a Street Fighter, you know. So he is really. They do a good job with him.
Apart from in the comic book I've got of him, where he's just literally like a really goofy, hungry, like oaf.
Oh really?
Basically. Yeah. I've got the first issue of the Street Fighter 2 comic from. Shit, I actually looked at it today. It's like September '94. It's like 20 years old now. But yeah, he's really, really goofy, really dumb. He's still like kick ass and wins lots of fights, but he just like thinks with his stomach all the time. He's always hungry. Like he's kind of goofy.
A bit like Goku.
Like
Goku, yeah.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, definitely.
The Dragon Ball Z fighters are very good as well. I should say.
I agree.
Yeah.
I quite like some of those. But anyway, that's enough for today because we are fresh out of time, folks. So I want to say thanks again to Aydan and Mark. Please check out Aydan Watkins and Handheldretro on YouTube, and watch out for their game chasing in the valleys. Thank you once again to my co-host, brother in retro, Brahilia Tom.
You're welcome, sir.
Always a pleasure. This has been the Retro Renaissance podcast. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.